Verifying you're ready to buy a business. As you can see, there are a lot of pieces and parts to this, from access to capital, your willingness to manage change slowly, some background or resource you can lean on, that you have the time needed for the business, you're good at operations or are willing to hire someone who is, you have a business entity set up or in the process of doing so, and of course, as always, a contract lawyer or some type of friend who can help you legally. Now, when you're looking to buy a business, the very first thing you need to have is money, aka capital. The four most common ways purchases are funded are: one, you have the funds, you have the money. Two, you bring on partners to split the cost. Three, you borrow funds in terms of a small business administration loan. Or four, you borrow from friends and family. Now, one, you have the funds. This means you have the money in an account or a high-end line of credit at low interest rates. This is the fastest and easiest way to do this. No question, right? You're not asking for anything. You have it. You can easily fund the transaction and move forward. Next, you bring on partners to split the cost. Now, the good thing about partners is they can lower your capital input, thus reducing your risk exposure. But as always, when you have partners, you've got to be the kind of person that can be fair with your partners. Partners also will most likely require a second legal agreement. The other option is you borrow funds in terms of a small business administration loan, an SBA loan. Now, you're going to pay interest on the loan, which will reduce your cash flow. Very important. But this is a good way for a lot of people to go out and buy businesses. 4, borrow from friends and family. Now, normally people are going to say don't ever mix friends and family in business, but this is one of the times where this is kind of acceptable, because unlike a startup, your friends and family should expect to get their money back. Now, they might charge you a little bit of interest, maybe less than an SBA loan. Their terms may not be as stringent where you have to pay back something month over month, but they should expect that, unlike a startup where you pretty much have a choice of setting your money on fire or hitting the lotto, they're going to return on their investment. Now, this is a big one. And the reason I bring this up is, from a mindset perspective, a lot of people want to be the idea person. They want to go out and show how smart they are. When you buy a business, an established business, you have to be willing to manage change slowly. Purchasing a business that is earning profit and then immediately changing it is a recipe for stress. This is all about your ability to be patient. Another thing that you can have that will be really helpful is, do you have some technical background? Or if you don't, a resource you can lean on. Now, if it's another small business, some understanding of how that business runs. If you don't, you go out and find somebody who does. Now, e-commerce, even in its simplest form, has some moving parts that require knowledge. If it's you, great. If not, you need to find somebody who can help you. This is another piece. You are good at operations or are willing to hire someone who is. Established web-based businesses or other established small businesses require someone who can run the behind the scenes day to day. That might be you. That may not be you. It's okay. You have to be open to that prospect though. And so when you transitioning from the last slide about finding something from operations, you have to be sure that you have the time needed for the business. Most listings for anybody who's selling their business will let you know how many hours a week are required by the owner. For a new owner, that means if I go buy the business, double that number. If somebody says I spend 10 hours a week on it, it's going to be 20 hours a week for you, 30 hours a week for you, 40 hours a week for you. And the reason I say this is, oftentimes we forget the things we do on a day-to-day basis. If you've been doing something over and over and over, it becomes second nature. And for these business owners who have been running these businesses, a lot of things they do may not even feel like work, but they're necessary for the business to run. And so here's a really simple 1-minute exercise for you. I want you to set a timer for 1 minute and write down all the things you do during the day, from answering emails, phone calls, work things, home life things, picking up kids, taking the trash out, getting groceries, cleaning up, doing laundry, calling people, texting people, FaceTiming people. Why? Because I want you to see that there's a lot that goes into your day-to-day. Because when we look at an example of a current owner spending 10 hours a week on the business, 10 hours times 2 is 20 hours. If we added 20 hours of work to your current schedule, are you pulling your hair out? Next, do you have a business entity set up or in the process of doing it? Now, this is not absolutely necessary. And if you buy a business, you may buy the entire entity. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. But having a business structure helps keep your finances separate and may also offer some protections if things go bad. Say that your product hurts someone or makes somebody sick or somebody just decides they want to sue you. They might be able to, having your own entity can potentially protect people from coming after your own personal stuff. Again, lawyer friends, lawyer friends, lawyer friends. As I said, a contract lawyer friend. You need to accept it and understand that a lawyer is necessary. They're going to help you run through a lot of things that, frankly, you may not be prepared to deal with. Now, I always say that the best time to talk to a lawyer is when things are just starting out. The worst time to talk to a lawyer are when things are awful, because you have probably run into an issue that's going to be very, very expensive to fix. And so one of the great examples is, and this happened to me, is you buy a business with 2 other partners. One of the partners wants out. They decided that they want, what seems like an unfair amount. Without a contract in place, this could cause a legal fight. You end up paying a lawyer no matter what, and you'll most likely lose a friend. Making tough decisions early saves a lot of heartache later. So to recap, verifying that you're ready to buy a business means you have all these pieces in place and you've thought about them, you've been honest with yourself that, one, you have access to capital, you're willing to manage change slowly, and that's a tough one for a lot of people who have this entrepreneurial spirit. You have some background, whether technical or in that business, or you have a resource you can lean on. You have the time needed for the business. That's a big one. It's hard to be honest with yourself about that. You are good at operations or willing to hire someone who is. This is for an operator. Again, this is not the entrepreneur who wants to set the world on fire and change the way everybody sees this business. You have a business entity set up or in the process of doing it. Again, that's nuts and bolts kind of thing. The less fun stuff. And as always, a contract lawyer friend.